And we're back. So now we're going to move on with our questioning. I'm going to direct my next question to Alva McCall. Alva, in relation to the financial institutions, the trust companies and service providers, or trust and service providers companies, and VASPs, which is a new sector, I've noticed we talked about high risk, them being high risk. What are some of the risk factors that resulted in that conclusion?
Okay, well, thanks, Monique. In terms of the TCSPs, obviously the size of the industry is one factor. The number of clients that they provide services to, the types of services that they provide, because TCSPs provide a variety of services, directorships, nominee shareholders, just to name a few. So those types of services come with a level of risk. We also looked at the global nature of the business that they provide, and the global nature of their clientele. Yes. The fact that they have clients who may be operating in some high-risk jurisdictions. We looked at the fact that they have clients who themselves may be high risk because of their positions as what we call politically exposed persons. Right. So those are some of the factors that we looked at to draw us to the conclusion of TCSPs being at high risk. Now, in terms of the VASPs, the virtual asset service providers, you would note that in the 2020 report, they were considered emerging products at the time. And in the 2020 report, they were rated as high risk. Now we've shifted, and while the 2022 report does mention them a bit about them in the emerging products section, we have included them in the financial institutions section of the report because as of February 2023, they fall under the supervisory remit of the Commission. Okay. And since December 2022, they have been required to adhere to the provisions of the AML code. Now, while the reporting period for the 2022 report was from 2020 to 2022, and that was before they came under the umbrella, the supervisory umbrella of the Commission, we still looked at them from the point of view of being a financial institution. And the factors that caused them to be high risk, one was at the time they were not under any supervisory remit. Two, the ease in which the transactions that they facilitate could be carried out, the anonymity in relation to the transactions themselves, the fact that just the global nature again of the transactions that take place, not being because it's all virtual, it's very hard to identify and determine where these transactions are taking place and whether or not they're taking place in high-risk jurisdictions and that type of thing. So at this point, we still consider VAS to be very high risk. And I think that aligns generally with the findings in the international community.
Okay, so let's switch then to investment business. I noted that we said that was medium to low in terms of the risk, or medium high. It was medium high. Yeah. And well, what were the fundamental changes that you noticed there when we compare to what was found in our 2020 report? Okay.
Well, to be honest, there weren't any major fundamental changes. In 2020, they were also rated as medium high. But like I explained earlier, what we did was take a more granular approach at looking at what caused us to come to that conclusion and what the risk exposure is or to that sector. So of course, investment business products can be very attractive, to criminals because of the complex nature of some of these products and the range of the products and services that are offered. Because you have broker dealers, and that's the other thing. We instead of looking at this sector overall. We broke the sector down into the 5 categories of business that we've been able to identify, which includes the exchanges, the broker-dealers, the administrators, etc. So we were able to pinpoint more of where the risks lie within those individual subsectors, so to speak. So, the global or the worldwide nature of the business and the clients. I mentioned clients before when I talked about TCSBs. Yes. The high-risk clients like the politically exposed persons, clients operating in high-risk jurisdictions. But one thing that was a primary concern to us was the fact that the investment business sector doesn't report a lot of suspicious activities. And that's not really in keeping with their level of risk as identified by the FATF and even within our report. I think the investment business sector accounted for less than 1% of the SARS received between 2020 and 2022. And we saw that in 2020 as well. So I think it's something that we need as the supervisors to work with that sector, both us and the FIA, to work with that sector to help them to understand a little more about their obligations and the way that they can be exposed to money laundering risk so that they're able to better identify these things and report them when it happens.
Okay. Now, Alva, you talked more about, or earlier about legal persons and legal arrangements. Can you tell us more about that?
Right. So in the VI, we talk about, when we talk about legal arrangements and legal persons, for legal arrangements, we are speaking about trusts.
Okay.
And in the VI, in the Virgin Islands, those are the only types of legal arrangements that we have. We have express trusts, and then of course we have our trusts that are established under our Virgin Islands Special Trusts Act. Right. In terms of legal persons, we have a number of different products that we've identified. Of course, the biggest and the most important one is our BVI Business Companies product. But we also looked at our limited partnerships. We considered the impact of foreign companies that operate within the BVI, although there are not many of them. We still had to take those into account. We also looked at the micro business companies, although that regime is not currently in effect. We also had to show that we have taken them into consideration. Yes. So in looking at those different products, so to speak, we try to identify the risk that they carry, the money laundering risk that they carry. Yes. Quite obviously, the product with the most risk would be our BVI business company product, just because, just from the sheer volume of the companies that we have operating globally, because they can conduct such a wide range of business and provide such a wide range of services globally. So overall, the legal persons were rated, I believe, high, and the legal arrangements were rated a little lower. But in breaking down the legal persons, obviously the BVI business companies were found to be at a higher risk for money laundering exposure than the other types of legal persons, which would have been the limited partnerships, the micro business companies, the foreign companies, etc. So, but the report goes into a lot of detail as to how we arrived at that conclusion.
Okay. What's going through me now is just someone that is from the general public, and they're looking at this report or hearing you talk about this report. What are some of the things that a regular John Doe should think about when they're looking through this report as it relates to them conducting business, or conducting business for themselves or doing business with other entities?
Right. So I think there are two levels there, and I'll start at the national level, because I know we're talking about the sectors specifically, but we have to remember the national threats, money laundering threats.
Yes.
And I think from a general perspective, people need to be aware of the types of money laundering threats to the jurisdiction. I mean, we talk about the usual suspects like drug trafficking, human trafficking, the cash smuggling, but we also have to look at it from an international perspective in terms of fraud. We can't forget fraud from the domestic level as well as corruption from both the domestic and international perspective. So I think for the general public, we need to understand that what those threats are and how susceptible the jurisdiction is to those threats. But in terms of conducting business, hopefully persons will understand or get a better understanding of why some of these institutions, when you do business with them, they ask for particular information. It's not because they're trying to be a pain, although some people think, I mean, I work for the commission and sometimes they ask me, and I'm like, but I, I understand.
Yeah, we understand.
It can be a little frustrating if it's not explained properly, but it is a necessary part of the institutions knowing their customers so that they can properly identify their risks.
Knowing your customer. Yes, very good. I thank you for much for that response. Ms. Farial, are there any other risks or things that we need to draw the attention of the FIs, the financial institutions, and the DNFBPs? Did I say that right?
You did. That is correct.
Within your report. Anything else?
I think I would really encourage all of the FIs and all of the DNFBPs to review the report in its entirety. It's actually very important. It's actually a very important piece of document for them and how they run their business, as well as the types of controls that they put in place. So one of the requirements on these institutions is to be aware of their own money laundering risk, and as well as the risk of the jurisdiction within which they operate. That is an obligation for them. They must also undertake their own institutional risk assessments of their own business, which assesses their money laundering risk. This report will help them in doing that. So what I would really encourage is for all of these businesses to take the opportunity to review the report, to review its contents, and to really understand it. And in any event, if there are any questions, contact the relevant supervisory authority to ask those questions to see if there's anything that you need to do to apply it within your business. I think that's really something that's quite important as a next step.
Okay. I'm going to give you this opportunity before we get to our last question. I have one more question I have to answer. Is that okay? Sure. Okay. So relative to what you do at the BVI Financial Investigation Agency, as we're speaking about this risk assessment report, where can persons find information relative to the report in relation to what you do and to ensure that they are compliant? Where can we send the public?
Okay, so in the first instance, I would encourage everyone to have a look at the BVI Financial Investigation Agency's website. The website has been recently redesigned to ensure that it is as easy accessible as possible to everyone. It contains a lot of information on it, including the reports themselves, as well as other information. It includes the 2020 report as well as past webinars and current webinars that we've undertaken on the reports, money laundering risk, and how to combat money laundering risk. So I would really encourage everybody to have a look at that. The website actually includes a page on media and webinars, as well as guidance notes in relation to the same. And if you have any questions, contact the supervision unit.
All right, so thanks so much for being a partner.
Thank you.
All right, great. So, Ms. McCall, similar to the information that Farial just gave us, please let our viewers and listeners, the general public, know where they can go, or point us to where they can find the resources relative to assessment, risk assessment, or AML.
Sure, thanks, Monique. Well, the Commission's website, bvifsc.vg, we have a dedicated AML space on the website, and you can find everything AML in that space. We have all of the risk assessments that we've done the 2020 assessment, we're going back as far as the 2016 NRA, our terrorist financing and proliferation financing assessments are there. We have some very informative videos in that space as well. We have all of our AML guidance is located in our AML space. So
Yes.
I would say if you want to find out about the 2022 report, go to that space. But if you want to find out get more details about anything related to AML matters, then that's where you need to go.
Okay. And is there an email address that persons can write their queries to?
Well, if persons have general queries, they can send their emails to aml@bvifsc.vg, and that comes to my unit, so my team can hopefully respond to any of the queries that come in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys. So we've done a good job. So before we wrap up, let's talk about what else we can look forward to relative to the outreach effort that we are addressing the vulnerabilities identified in the 2022 Virgin Islands Money Laundering Risk Assessment Report.
Okay. Well, before I speak about the outreach, I just want to say in terms of addressing the vulnerabilities, again, I'm going to take it from the national perspective first. All law enforcement agencies and our competent authorities, they need to address the vulnerabilities that were identified in the report for each of those agencies.
Yes.
Obviously, they need to ensure that they have a sound understanding of what our money laundering risks are and the role they play in mitigating those risks. We also have to take into consideration, and when I say we, I mean the jurisdiction now has to take into consideration any potential legislative changes that we may have to deal with as a result of the findings of the report. So those are some of the broad areas. Now, in terms of the sectors themselves, of course, as I said before, we need to make sure that the sectors understand their exposure to money laundering, understand their risks, and put measures in place to mitigate those risks. And one of the things I think Fariel had mentioned was conducting those institutional risk assessments. That's very important, and it is now a requirement under the code.
Fariel, I just want to take this opportunity to say that I've mentioned your name extremely well. I've pronounced it very well. You know, than other people. Yes, okay, great. So is there anything else you would like to say to wrap up?
No, I would just encourage persons to make sure that they review the report. Please visit the the FIA's website. It does include a lot of information to assist the DNFBP sectors in ensuring that they are compliant with their obligations.
Okay. Thanks for joining us once again for this important episode of FSC Direct, where we discussed the 2022 Risk Assessment Report. Be sure to catch this entire program on our YouTube page, FSC's YouTube page. Please remember to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell, bing, whenever we are about to release more information relative to the financial services industry. And if you would like to be placed on our External Relations Directory page, where we are able to call on you to contribute and pull on your expertise for various initiatives that we have on our agenda, please go ahead and email us at externalrelations@bvifsc.vg. I am Monique Hodge, your Public Relations Manager here at the Commission, signing out.